Hey, what's going on, YouTube? We're back with another video. Trying to push these out as fast as possible because a lot of questions flying in on stream. What's the best this? What's the best that? Let's keep it going. We got Cyborg's primary weapons tier list for Cyberstan. This is going to be focused more so on Cyberstan and the new faction units. Want to give my take on how all the primary weapons are stacking up. Please keep in mind, I'm taking this from a tier 10 perspective. I saw some people commenting obviously not everybody plays on tier 10. Why are you doing on tier 10? Why don't you do it on tier 7? Well, personally, I have way more experience with tier 10, so that kind of pushes me towards wanting to do tier 10. But also, I think from a perspective of going for the higher tiers, it'll filter down better rather than doing the opposite. Because if I do a tier list based on tier 7, things change as they go up. I find certain weapons tend to drop lower, and I don't normally see weapons be valued more as you go up. But it's the inverse. When you go from tier 10 down, it kind of just stays the same. You might have a couple weapons that are on the bottom ranks that kind of come up, but for the most part, the top contenders maintain top contender status. It just gets a little more messy when you're going up rather than down. So hopefully the tier list is still useful for those that are on the lower tiers, but I honestly think it should be. Okay, starting off with the normal Liberator. Solid upgrade options. I think just because Light Pen actually works quite well on the Cyborg missions overall. You're not getting that much out of Medium Pen, just as an overarching thing. Medium Pen doesn't matter that much. You're obviously going to gain some more damage versus the backs of tanks and stuff like that, being able to actually deal with the flank of an actual automaton tank, being able to miss some shots on a Devastator around the eye and still do damage. It'll do more damage to the leg. But as far as the cyborgs in general, a Light Pen weapon just shooting at their face drops them incredibly fast. It works very similar to the Illuminate Overseers we talked about in a previous video. So for that reason, the Lib Carbine is just a stable B tier. Put the 60 round magazine on it, feels very good. Now that being said, the easy upgrade to it is Liberator Penetrator. Going to this 60 round magazine, losing some upfront damage per shot, but gaining the medium pen does feel really good when you do run into those Devastators. And you don't really notice the difference too much when you're just dealing with regular bots or all of the cyborgs coming at you. ARs feel very proficient, both for dealing with the Vox's vents, cyborgs aiming for the head. They are very stable ARs, so they're quite easy to spray down. I would say the only awkward part about using a Light Pen weapon is more or less when you have a gunship in the air, and now that they're a bigger threat, you need to make sure something in your inventory, support weapon, primary, secondary, is able to take it out. I would think about that beforehand, because the worst feeling in this game at the moment when you're on cyborgs is, yes, a Vox landing on your head, but also a gunship that's above you and you have no teammates around you to help you. So try to bring something to deal with it. It will save your life. Liberator Concussive, decent. I like the CC of it, but it is definitely a lower DPS weapon. You're going to be more bullying enemies rather than killing enemies. I usually have a rule of thumb of CC is great, crowd control is great, but it's typically better to just have the enemy dead on the ground than to be worrying about pushing him back. I think from a team play perspective, sure, but from an overall usability perspective, how powerful it'll feel in your hands, not as high. I don't think it deserves to go into C tier. I do think the 60 round magazine and the pure CC of it, especially for those radicals running at you, it is rather useful. So I can value that for sure. The 1-2 punch, sorry, I wanted to call it the 1-2 punch so bad. I think I've been playing too much Destiny in my head. The 1-2 with the grenade launcher, it's mostly just another Liberator. That's honestly all I can really say. It maybe doesn't get as many upgrades as the Liberator, because obviously you can't put any forward grips on it and stuff like that, but you get the utility of having a grenade launcher, so it allows you to maybe take thermite instead for those Voxes, and you don't have to bring something for fabricators, for instance, because you could just use the 1-2. Not bad. So the extra utility I will value a little bit higher than the normal Liberator, but it effectively feels exactly like the normal Liberator. Next, for the M5AC or MA5C, I think I remember that correctly. Medium pen feels a lot like the Adjudicator. Fairly slow, small magazine though. This is one of those weapons where it's like awkward for me because it's like, I want to put it in A tier, but it doesn't get any unique attachments and it doesn't get any zoom factor when you go ADS. That does matter to some extent for those longer range kills, but at least it's got medium pen, but it's got a small magazine. It's tough for me. I think I'm going to put it in B+. It may creep its way into like A-. We'll see. I'm thinking B+ for now, but it might creep into A-. I don't know. We'll see. All right, Coyote. Coyote is extremely solid. It wasn't as impressive as it was on like Bugs or Illuminate. I think it's just because of the higher health pools on average. I'm struggling here because it's like it floats between S tier and A tier for me. It's definitely incredibly good at just like dealing with the Cyclopses. Although fire does take like 1 or 2 instances, you can like do like a spray of like around 15 rounds to the head, just take him out quickly, or just be doing like body shots of the same amount of damage and just let them burn to death. That is fairly effective. Good magazine size, not the greatest in terms of attachments, but the weapon itself is just so solid. I'm struggling here. I think it could deserve to be an S tier, but I'm going to let it shake out over time. I'm going to keep it in A tier just for now. All right, next, the Liberator Carbine. This one I'm actually going to evaluate into A-. I love the extra fire rate of it. Put some good attachments to reduce the recoil. This thing's like a little buzzsaw. It really does feel the little stalwart. That's what people call it. It feels like that. It's an absolute buzzsaw, and I really enjoy using it. It tears apart enemies very quickly, especially if you start going for some headshots, just quick bursts on the head. Those cyborgs don't know what hit them. It's really good. All right, next we have the Adjudicator. I want to put it a little bit higher than the normal M5AC just because like better attachments and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think it's a little bit better, but it's not much different than the Halo AR. It's got a lot in common. It really does. But you do get the medium pen with some easier recoil just because of the attachments you can put on it. Next, you have the Pacifier. It goes into that same support weapon-ish on your team, but it's stunning an enemy rather than knocking them back like the Liberator Concussive did. And some people may appreciate the stunning capabilities a little more. I definitely did when the Pacifier first came out, being able to stun an enemy and then like transfer your fire up to like their head. It can make for some very easy, satisfying headshots on Devastators, on Radicals, on Agitators, and so on and so forth. So if you're having trouble hitting headshots, it's a relatively good weapon, but this weapon will feel very bad if you're just going for body shots. It's a bit of a pea shooter because you're effectively almost dropping like half your damage to be able to stun per bullet, which is good, but you are losing a lot of damage. I'm going to put it B-, like it's definitely near the bottom of B-, maybe C+, but I'm gonna put B- for now. Next, we have the Killzone AR. It's basically just a worse version of the normal Liberator in essentially every way. No sight, really. Smaller magazine than the 60 rounder. You can't put any good attachments on it. Like, I think it has a slightly faster fire rate if I remember off the top of my head, but like that's about it. I would rather use the normal Liberator. Tenderizer always maintains like a fairly soft spot in my heart. Being able to turn into a BR and just like put it in burst fire is always satisfying. Keeping the fire rate up and turn it into a burst fire, it'll feel just like the Halo AR. And I mean like the Halo battle rifle, not the M5AC that we have in the Warbond. I really like the Tenderizer. It still shreds, does a lot of damage per bullet. It's got a small magazine, but a lot of damage per bullet, which makes up for it. So if you don't miss that many shots of your AR sprays, it feels really good against the cyborgs. I highly recommend it. It is light pen, but it's like a different flavor of the Liberator Carbine. Not shooting as fast, not having as big of a magazine, but lots of punch per bullet, which is really cool. Okay, next we have a new AR. We have the Suppressor. Stealth, at least for initiating like a lot of your groups of like patrols and stuff like that, is relatively nice to be able to do. Being able to take out those small bots before they can call in reinforcements is actually really nice. And it's a reason why I'm going to put it in A tier. You get the nice big magazine. It's not doing a crazy amount of damage per bullet because it does lose some to the Liberator Carbine because it's kind of just the Liberator Carbine, but with the suppressor on it. It feels very similar, but I think the suppressor is worth it for the city missions just to stop as many bot drops from happening around you. And for that reason, I think it's like right up there. But if your team is like super loud all the time and they're calling in bot drops and it's not even your fault, you won't get that suppressor feeling out of it. But if everybody's running a suppressor, and get a lot of value out of it. Next, you have the Constitution. It's a bit of an awkward one. I usually put this like in B tier when it comes to bot missions, just because you're usually dealing with a lot of Devastators and tier 1 bots. But now that we have a ton more rush you down enemies, including like the Agitators and the Radicals, and then what the Agitators do to the bots so they're faster running you down, the slow fire rate of the Constitution just doesn't feel the same. Like, I can't value the weapon just because it's like, it takes so long to reload, and then fire rate is relatively slow, and it's very punishing if you miss shots. I'm going to put it in C tier. It pains me. It pains me. I do like using the Constitution. It's normally in B tier on automatons, but I think it's lost its place. Just there's too many enemies rushing you down. Next, for I think my favorite weapon overall in the game is the Amendment. I love this thing. It has such high damage, fire rate, durable damage, and a bayonet. It feels great for a light pen weapon. Obviously, it doesn't get all the kudos of being a medium pen weapon. It won't be able to shoot down like your dropships and stuff like that. But with like steady aim and shooting at like automaton eyes, it feels amazing. Even just going for automaton legs, one tapping all tier 1 bots, you could one tap like Radicals in the eye, in the head, and then like you can 2 tap the Instigators in the head because one shot to remove the helmet and another one to kill. Sometimes I just do like 3-round bursts on them. It just feels so nice. I highly recommend. If you have not tried the Amendment out and you're just like, I hate that war bond, trust me, the Amendment and the grenade in it might change your mind. Next, we have the Deadeye. I absolutely love this thing. I was a bit worried using it today on stream. I was like, oh man, it's got a really slow reload, but the sheer damage per bullet really makes up for it. It's obviously a weapon for people that are trying to hit more precision shots with their marksman rifles. You may not appreciate it if you're going for body shots more often. I still miss the 2 tap to the leg. It was removed when they added extra health to the legs for Devastators. I still miss that. I wish they would revert that, at least for the Deadeye. Arrowhead, please. But yeah, the Deadeye is easily an A tier. Obviously, it's one of those weapons, you gotta hit your shots. Controller players, you may not like it as much, but there's a lot of CC as well, so if you do miss a shot, you're at least knocking them back, unlike Diligence Counter Sniper, which still feels good. I'm gonna put it lower in A tier, but it doesn't quite have that stagger, which is really nice when you're dealing with the Cyclops, and a little bit less damage per bullet does mean that you gotta rely more on the sheer fire rate of the Diligence Counter Sniper. But if you could control it with some good mods on it, you'll be taking down gunships and stuff like that quite quickly. I still have a soft spot a little bit more for the Deadeye just because of that extra damage per bullet and the fact that this round's reloaded. You know, you're never wasting any ammunition, like reloading early, and the stagger of the Deadeye gives it an advantage in my eyes. Regular Diligence, solid B tier. I can't really complain about it. Good magazine size, good recoil control, good handling, just good. Nothing really to complain about. The Censor, I'm going to value higher. I think it is arguably a little bit better. Diligence in a lot of ways just because of the suppressor and the extended mag and stuff like that. It's also just a very satisfying weapon to use. I know that's like, it's quite anecdotal and it like, obviously it's like biased because it's like, do you like the sound or not? But it's a very satisfying weapon to be shooting bots with. And I'll value that. I think I will. But yeah, the suppressor, just like silenced AR, does come in very handy when you're dealing with assaulting a jammer or taking out an installation and trying not to get those bots to do a bot drop, because the bot drops are your enemy in the Cyberstand missions. It will make or break a mission. If you are constantly bringing in those bot drops, it puts so much more stress on your team, and just the random deaths and stuff like that, it adds up. Okay, the Defender, lots of damage per bullet, especially for those close range kills. It is losing quite a bit of damage over time. It did feel good, but I still feel like there's a lot of times where I'd rather have the AR just for, you know, the more distant killing. If you find you're just using your weapon in like less than 50 meters all the time, I think the Defender could actually be easily an A tier. But just because it's like light pen and you're going to want to take distance shots sometimes, it doesn't feel nearly as good as like having an AR in your hand. But I can see a lot of like one-handed enjoyers maybe value a little more, so I could easily see it in A tier. I get it, totally do. The sheer fire rate of the Knight easily puts it in A tier for me. It just kind of consistently does that. Just the bullet hose. I do prefer the Liberator Carbine in most situations, but the P90 bullet hose feels so good when taking out like Vox engines or vents and stuff like that. It's really, really fun to use, and you will probably go through ammo pretty damn fast. Try not to. Remember, it does have burst fire. You can use that to your advantage. Next, we have the Pummeler. I've never been a huge fan of it. I honestly prefer to be knocking back my enemies or just like stunning with the pacifier. I just don't love the pummeler nearly as much. It is nice to have that big magazine, but it's going to be a C tier for me. Next, we have the Halo SMG. It is getting a little more love from me. Suppressor in hand. It is a weird archetype that I'm not a huge fan of, where it's not quite the knight. It's more so like a slower fire rate and a smaller magazine, but it's got the suppressor, which keeps it in B tier and keeps it from being C tier. They did make some different changes about giving it more durable damage, and it did help. So I appreciate it and I noticed it. But yeah, solid. But I can see some people maybe appreciating it a little bit more, but I'm going to keep it like middle B. Next, we have the Reprimand, an always solid A tier pick. Just like other SMGs, it will start feeling its SMG characteristics at longer ranges due to drag, but because of the sway reduction that they did not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, it feels a lot better, even at distance shooting. Because it has 125 damage per shot, it does a load of damage, so even at range, it still feels like it packs a punch. The smaller magazine can suck at times, but try to tap fire it or burst fire it more often than just like full auto spraying. It'll make that magazine go a lot further. But luckily you can upgrade the magazine and it does feel good. Next, we have the Killzone AR. I'm still putting this thing in D tier. It doesn't have a suppressor. It's got bad stats for just like spraying. The Knight feels so much better. When you use the Knight for one round, then use the Killzone SMG, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's a night and day difference. Being able to put attachments on the Knight and not attachments on the Killzone SMG, like the Killzone SMG just needs better stats at base, so it doesn't need to have all of these attachments to feel good, including maybe just like better ammo. That could also work. Next, we have the Punisher. I like to put this one a little bit higher into like sometimes like into the A tier, but I was appreciating having more range, and it did feel like cyborgs were like taking quite a few buckshot rounds to take them down. At least you're staggering them, which was nice. Definitely recommend the full choke. This one I want to maybe put into A tier, but I'm gonna stick it in like high B for now. It just didn't feel like it was performing as well versus cyborgs. I felt like I was very constantly overwhelmed and it was taking a bit too long to kill things, and I wanted to have a little more range pretty consistently. Speaking of having more range, you have the Slugger. The Slugger had a very similar problem to the Punisher. I feel like I was just kind of bullying the cyborgs at times. If I wasn't headshotting them with the Slugger, I felt like it was just kind of too slow on damage. And even when I was hitting headshots, you're not going to hit every headshot. So if you miss one, just the pump action to get the next round out definitely felt like a big delay. And if you had to put many shots into the chest of one, it just felt like you were making them dance in front of you. So it was kind of just disappointing. At least it's got medium pen and you're like taking out drop ships and or gunships and stuff like that. So I will like value it a bit higher than the Punisher, but yeah, I feel like it just needs to do more damage per shot. It's making them dance a bit too much. Next, you have the Cookout. Solid A tier pick just because fire is amazing. It's not going to be my S tier as before just because it's taking more individual pellets to light enemies on fire. That was a change they made some time ago to make sure fire weapons weren't like out of control compared to other weapons. So the Cookout definitely still feels better than the Punisher just for like spraying down enemies at range, lighting them on fire, but also just being a great just shotgun for like pump them maybe once or twice and then just let them cook afterwards. You'll learn the timing and how many shots it requires over time, so it feels more proficient as time goes on. Next, you have the Halt. The Halt, with the changes to quick swapping, being able to put on a bind, I do think a lot of people are starting to value it more over time. It does feel better as time goes on. I still think it's one of those weapons that requires you to be able to utilize the EMS rounds, like the stun rounds, effectively, consistently for me to want to put it anything higher than like middle B. It doesn't have as much stopping power as other shotguns, but at least it has medium pen, which is really cool, but the less stopping power means you have to utilize the MS rounds in a lot of situations versus like the cyborgs that are rushing you down. It will feel like you're gonna have to put an extra couple shots into it. Whereas like with the Halo shotgun, that happens a lot less just because you have that more upfront damage. Obviously it's less accurate than other shotguns, but I think overall the Halo shotgun was like solid. You're just going to be feeling it on those ranged situations where the Punisher, because it has the choke, will probably just end up feeling better. Next, we have the Double Freedom. Almost forgot it. It wasn't part of this tier list at first. Double Freedom is like one of those shotguns that Just feels so freaking good. It has a downside of like small individual units, but man, does this thing absolutely annihilate bigger enemies that are running at you. It is extremely satisfying to be able to one tap a lot of the cyborgs that run at you, and at worst two tap before you have to reload and go for the next one. It's very, very satisfying. Obviously with the medium pen as well, you can destroy devastators and berserkers and stuff like that. It one taps the vents on the Vox as well, which is really nice. Not a lot of weapons can do that. I'm gonna put an S tier. It's just so satisfying to use. I highly recommend. If you really want to supercharge this, grab a reload armor. It will even shine brighter when you do that. But yeah, highly recommend the Double Freedom. Absolutely love this thing. It's just so much fun to use. If you want to bring like a sidearm or something like that to deal with like the small little bots that are just gonna kind of pester you, that is definitely something you could do. But this thing will absolutely eviscerate everything higher. Being able to sneak up behind a Hulk and double tap it and destroy his radiator is so satisfying, and a lot of guns just won't be able to do that outside of like the variable, because usually the Hulk turns around in time. So yeah, love that Double Freedom, man. It feels so good. Normal Breaker, I'm gonna put this one like lower B, but like not too low. I like the damage per shot and the sheer fire rate. It just doesn't feel like it has enough ammunition personally. You just go through it extremely fast and you just wish you were wanting more. Like you wish you had as much ammo as the Spray&Pray, which I'm gonna put more or less next to it. The Spray&Pray gains a lot of ammunition, which is nice for a bunch of like the smaller tier enemies, but the problem is that the stopping power of it is really slow. And the trade-off is you get 10% fire rate on the Spray&Pray, but you get a huge damage decrease between the normal breaker and the Spray&Pray. So the Spray&Pray ends up not feeling that great, honestly, even with all the upgrades. Like I'm putting it in B tier, so obviously I'm not like hating on it, but I think it's just good. There's definitely a lot of weapons that I would rather use over it. Yeah, the Spray&Pray just, I wish it was more. We're not there yet, but I'm gonna be comparing it to the Trident because it feels a lot similar to that, and the Trident just feels a lot better. Next, we have the Incendiary Breaker. Not as good as its pump brother, the Cookout. The Incendiary Breaker just doesn't have as much ammo reserves. It never received back the ammo reserves it lost a long time ago when it was the meta pick. I'm still hoping that Arrowhead just decides to give it back the 2 magazines it lost once upon a time. I do think it deserves it at this point. Like, I don't think it would be overpowered or anything like that. It would just be more or less on par with the Cookout at this point. Yeah, solid B tier. It's a shotgun with incendiary rounds. It's good. Nothing to call home about, but it's good. Crossbow. Absolutely insane on cyborgs. Being able to one tap cyborgs, like literally any type of cyborg, one taps it. Really good. Bot drop comes down, drops all those enemies. 2 shots, the entire bot drop is dead, outside of like obviously like Hulks and stuff like that. It's so good. It's your mini grenade launcher in your hand, dealing with objectives. It feels like a support weapon in your primary slot. Yes, you're not going to be able to destroy vents with it, and I mean like vents on the Vox engine. You're going to want to bring some other support weapon to deal that, but I'm assuming you already know that, and you know you're going to have something else in your repertoire like your sidearm or your support weapon to deal with those Vox vents. But like, it is just so insane outside of that fact that it still deserves to be an S tier. Next, you have the Eruptor. No surprise, it is still a support weapon feeling primary weapon. It absolutely eviscerates the vents. It is extremely good at all the cyborgs, one-shots them as well. It has a slower fire rate, so I'm going to put it more close to like S-. But that being said, like the Eruptor is just so good. When you really get into the flow of things, not firing it too fast so it's super inaccurate, just heads up, that's still a bug that happens. If you fire it and then immediately try to fire it as soon as you can fire it, the weapon will actually be pointing not towards the center of your screen, so be careful about that. You want to slow down your fire rate just a little bit. It's a little awkward, but like you'll get used to it. It's just so good. The shrapnel, the damage, lots of AoE, but not as consistent AoE damage as a crossbow, which is why I value it higher. Next, you have the Plasma Punisher. This has had quite the glow up over time. Solid A. It used to be something that was a lot lower, but mainly because the cyborgs are very weak to just explosive damage in general, it feels really nice. You're not being able to take out Vox engines with it, but it feels so good for general ad clear and it's very easy to use that I'm going to put it like towards like A, bottom of A. My only issue with it is that obviously obviously range is a concern. You have to lob the shots, and you're not really going to be able to take out gunships with it. It will be awkward. You technically could do it, but you'd have to do some proper trigonometry in order to figure out the actual arc, because it's a pretty slow lobbed round that you have to figure out the arc and which way he's strafing back and forth. It's not easy. It would be a difficult task to do. Next, we have the plasma accelerator. The really small magazine makes me want to put it like C+. There's too much horde-like element to cyborgs because you're going to have a lot more trouble dealing with like the large groups of enemies. It feels kind of awkward. It's still one of those weapons where I wish you could just fire like one shot at a time, kind of like the Purifier, but you obviously can't do that, so it's a bit awkward. Like, it's going to be nice for some situations at more distance, being able to like one-tap Devastators or take out gunships and stuff like that. I can see the potential of that, but because of the constant rushing you down of like the cyborgs, it's going to feel a bit awkward. Next, we have the Blitzer. Still maintains a solid B ranking. The range is mostly the concern I have for the Blitzer when taking it to bot missions. Because there's less Devastators, it does get more of a usage. There's a lot more cyborgs up in your face. Those tier 1 bots get eviscerated by it. But like I said, short range on automatons kind of sucks. You're going to have to be really close. You're going to be risking your head because of the extra accuracy the automatons have gotten when there's a lot of enemies on screen. You don't want to be hit trading in super close range with the Blitzer. Even the shotguns, a lot of them can be utilized at like 30 plus meters. Not really with the Blitzer. You're gonna have to be a lot closer. So keep that in mind. Next, we have the Scythe. Still maintaining my B rankings. I do love that like it's gotten its better sight and stuff like that. But because I'm not really shooting as many Devastators, I wasn't enjoying it as much. It more or less just feels like a solid AR that you don't have to reload, I guess. You know, I think this is a pretty fair, but remember, the damage per second on it isn't the best, and the ammo supply is not always that hard to find on the map. Just like running around, there is a decent amount of ammo, so being unlimited ammo is not the biggest concern. I do appreciate the fact that it's a cold planet and you don't have to reload, though. That is nice. So I think I'm being a bit harsh, but I think B+ is a fair rating for it. I do wish it just did more damage per second so you could deal with the vents on Vox engines a little bit faster. Maybe that would push it into A tier for me, but let me know down below how you guys enjoying the Scythe. It didn't really click with me as much, but maybe you guys are enjoying it more than I am. All right, the Sickle is continuing to kind of like slowly be power crept by the rest of the game. Like the Scythe, I'd rather use the Scythe than the Sickle. That's crazy talk, I know, for many. You know, if you remember back to the glory days where this thing was just sitting comfortably in S tier for so long, but it's just being power crept because a lot of other ARs are gaining damage over time, and the Sickle just isn't. It still is like an assault rifle with unlimited ammo, technically, if you don't overheat it, but it's starting to feel like more and more of a pea shooter. And like I said, ammo is not that hard to come by just because all your teammates have supply backpacks a lot of the time, or there's the random ammo caches around the map, which is also not too hard to find. A lot of POIs have it as well. Like, I'm running up to like some of the main objectives and there's just ammo laying around in Cyberstan, which is pretty insane. Next, you have the double-edged sickle. Okay, this one is always a weird one for me to place. I don't want to have to place two of them, one with armor, one without armor. It is way better with armor. I'm going to average it out. If you don't invest in any armor, it's not going to feel the best. It's probably closer to like a middle or lower B, but if you invest in armor, this thing's touching S tier. And when I mean armor, I mean like fire resistance armor. You know, if you take the heavy fire resistance and you put vitality on, this thing basically does no damage until it like overheats and sets you on fire. That feels amazing, but you need to invest in armor, very specific armor, especially on Cyberstan, where you're gonna probably want to try and use some very specific armors because of explosive resistance, extra stims, stealth. There's a lot of good armors nowadays, so pigeonholing yourself into having to use fire resistance does kind of suck. Next, we have the Trident, the new Trident. I freaking love this thing. I'm probably not going to put it in S tier just because it's light pen, and I think a light pen weapon on bots almost fits there. It just feels amazing because it just feels like a better spray and pray in many respects. As long as you're just not like spam firing it on Cyberstan because it's a cold planet, you can use this thing all the time. It feels like really good even versus Devastators for some reason. Like if you just aim at the eye like you would another weapon, if you fire it like a couple times, it feels very consistent that the shots will usually group around where you want it to go. So I'm doing like eye shots at like 50 meters versus Devastators, and it's like, what? This thing's nuts. The only thing it doesn't have is medium pen, like I said. So it's like pretty crazy weapon. weapon. I really like it. It is definitely power creep, but I highly recommend if you haven't tried it out. It's good. I highly recommend it. All right, next we have the Purifier. This one's a bit of a tough one for me. I want to put in an S tier, but there's some part of me that it feels like it's a bit too slow at times. And if you're just tap firing it, it can feel a bit hard to use against the Cyclops. If you can control the engagements, it feels like a crossbow that you don't have to reload as much, right? Because it has a 15 round magazine versus a 5 round magazine. It doesn't gain the support weapon-like traits of being able to destroy fabricators, but you have a much higher killing capacity with the Purifier. So I think it's still S tier. It's extremely good at killing, but you're going to be losing out on like the support weapon attributes. But I think it's still so good at killing that it's going to stay up there. Killing the vents though, it is partially an explosive weapon and it's not doing a crazy amount of impact damage. You can kill the vents with it, but I would just not recommend it. I would bring something else to do damage to the vents on a Vox engine. But it does so well versus like other things, especially if you can control the engagement range and get those charged weapon shots out. It feels insane. It feels really good against the Cyclops and just like general mobbing as it normally did on automaton missions. Next we have the Scorcher. Scorcher I've always had like this love for since the beginning of the game, but because we've had so many weapon buffs and so many like buffs in general, it has been dropping a little bit. The ammo on the Scorcher is still a huge concern. If you're not bringing a supply backpack or you're very good about ammo conservation, you're going to run out of ammo incredibly fast with this thing. But when you are like flushed with the ammo, it feels amazing. It's very easy to use. It's just an explosive auto rifle. And for that reason, it's like top A for sure. It's just ammo is going to be a concern for you. You have to be paying attention to that. Also, it can't take out the Vox vents. So you have to make sure you have something else in your inventory to take out those Vox vents. It technically can because it has some impact damage, but a lot of the damage of the Scorcher is explosive. So like it's going to take a while compared to a lot of the weapons around here in order to kill a vent. So keep that in mind. Next we have the variable. The variable we messed around with quite a bit today because we've been doing some math on stream, and something that we realized when doing the math on the Vox engine is that if you put it in the total mode where it fires the entire magazine all at once, and if you shoot it at 4 vents, it kills a Vox. You don't even have to throw a grenade in. 4 weak point shots destroys it. It does enough damage. 3, it like gets pretty close. So you could just do 3 and then throw a thermite, or 3 and then like an ultimatum, or like I guess even 2 plus an ultimatum might actually kill it. The variable is really unique for that reason. And it makes me want to put it very high up on the tier list just because it feels insane. Like the amount of damage you can dish out in one shot. And then remember, the way the vents work are you do a base amount of damage to the overall health pool, and then that like weapon damage that you beat the vent with is like added on top of that, purely going to the main HP pool. So the variable like cooks. It's very good in that regard. If you can just hit a bunch of weak points, like it's actually better than like the AMR or like the railgun for some situations, right? Like it's insane how much damage you can do with this thing. So I want to put it high for that reason, but for general like mobbing, walking around with this thing, it feels clunky. The reload is fairly long, and swapping between all the fire modes doesn't always feel the best because there's 3 of them. So like if you want to go from total back to shotgun, you kind of have to like shuffle around on it, and like doing the quick swaps, you know, you got to tap it twice, and you know, are you in the right mode? Are you in the wrong mode? The ergonomics are still not great on it, so you might want to use peak physique. It's hard for me. I think it's still like a good weapon just because of the Vox alone, and it's like really interesting that you can do that, but I have a hard time wanting to put it any higher than like lower A. If you are like looking at your primary weapon primarily for taking out like Vox vents, rate this thing way higher. But if you're looking at your primary more for like dealing with like cyborgs and devastators and normal bots and berserkers and so on and so forth, it's not as strong. I would rather have a regular AR and just kill vents more regularly and just use like ultimatum and like thermites and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Torture. Torture's a bit of a difficult one for me to place because I do really appreciate the fact that it is basically the flamethrower stratagem, but in a primary weapon, and it honestly will feel very similar and sometimes even better than the stratagem weapon because it has way better handling. But it's on automaton missions, and getting close to enemies without like getting eviscerated can be tough at times. You know, I can appreciate fire damage being quite good, and for those mass swarms of automatons, it can feel pretty damn nice to be able to lay out a curtain of fire and then watch them all walk through it. But I'm gonna put it like B tier. It's still a flamethrower with not that much range. I think on tier 10, you're mostly going to be hit trading too much and you're going to be on the losing end of that equation. But I can appreciate the fact that like if you wanted to, you could just kill a Hulk with it. Or if I wanted to, I could just kill a War Strider with it. That extra pen is, you know, greatly like useful to you, but how often are you going to be able to use that versus like getting eviscerated by a Devastator that you just can't get quite close enough to? It's a bit awkward. Next, we have the Dominator. Solid middle A. There are lots of situations where I feel like it might just be like a better Diligence counter sniper, but it kind of depends on whether or not you're hitting weak points or you're hitting body shots. If you're more of a body shot king, Dominator for sure. If you're more hitting weak points more consistently, use the counter sniper. That's kind of how I like to convince people of like one weapon versus the other. I think the Dominator is maintaining a lot, even though like a lot of weapons around it are getting like power crept around it. I do think the Dominator maintains a good position. All right, so now let me look at my tier list and see if I want to change anything. I do think I want to put the Coyote into S tier. The fire damage, reliable, you know, AR, just feeling of it just feels really nice. Still like very solid at dealing with like everything that is thrown at you on the automaton front, and just being able to like very consistently light things on fire. Doing like burst fire at enemies to light them on fire is like very useful, especially if they're more distant. Burst fire, light that enemy on fire. Burst fire, light that enemy on fire. Do that twice, they fall over. It's very satisfying to do, honestly. Trident, I'm happy with like the highest A tier. I'm gonna bring the Pacifier down to C tier just because I feel like it just doesn't quite have that stopping power I would really want it to. Sickle staying with B. It pains me. It really does pain me to put Sickle in B tier. I think that's where it deserves to be though. Is there anything else I feel like might be like out of place right now? I think I talked about everything that I wanted to. Yeah, I think I'm pretty damn happy with this tier list. But I'm curious, what is your findings? What are you using on your missions? What's your S tier? Obviously, this is what I'm finding works best for me and what I think is most proficient. But like, hey, what's working for you? Keep in mind, because of personal preferences here and there, or just aiming in general, you may appreciate something one tier higher or one tier lower. Don't bite my head off on it. Primary weapons can sometimes be a very personal decision to Helldivers, so I get it. If you see something lower that you like, doesn't mean it's bad, just means that, you know, maybe I can see some more value in other weapons around it. The feeling of a weapon is very important to people, so I understand it at the end of the day. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't already heard, obviously I am streaming over on YouTube at Maplewood_TV, not this channel, but my alternate YouTube channel, and over on Twitch at Maplewood_TV. Please come by, talk to me, try to convince me on maybe a weapon. I'd love to have the conversation. Love having those viewers that come by and like, hey, just watch your video, but I think this deserves to be a little higher. Even in the comments when you guys do it, I love hearing your viewpoints. Sometimes in the moment I'm feeling one way, but then I reflect on it, I read you guys' comments, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, they have a good point. If you haven't already seen down below as well, we have our Discord, we got some merch. Please consider leaving a like on the video if you enjoyed. Consider subscribing for more future content. Next, I'm going to be going over secondary weapons and grenades, and then let me know what other videos you guys are looking for. We're just going to keep pumping out these videos. It's just a really exciting time for Helldivers. So much love, YouTube. Peace out. See you guys on stream.